Well, hello, that's me again, and it is the 5th of September. It's the end of the Labor Day weekend, and I had to go a little bit tactical, thing which I hate, and ballistic, as you can see yourself in the headline or title of this video, and there is a reason for that. As you might expect, for the blog, which gathers around 1.6, 1.7 million visitors a month, nothing really special, but then again, I don't write porn, and I don't produce only for fans only, or only fans, whatever the hell is this, because it will crush the porn industry if I will start doing this. For a blog which is concentrating primarily on the geopolitics or military affairs, it's not too bad. I'm just single guy. I repost sometimes the pieces and articles from my friends, but other than that, it's just what I do. And still, considering the fact that I have pretty good, decent, audience I command in a good sense, and people who listen and read me, you might expect that my blog gets a lot of visitors from all kinds of funny organizations, and of course it gets a lot of visitors from, for example, Ukrainian side. They have this IPSO Center of the Psychological Operations, which is being run by CIA and MI6. I certainly get people from CIA and MI6 and Pentagon who read me, so this is not a secret, nothing wrong with that. But of course you get those people, those one day or one post registrations. They get up on the to the discuss and begin to do what is called today FUD or FUD. Fear, uncertainty, doubt posts, and they reek, miles away from with those Ukrainian or Hasbara, Israeli or CIA or MI6, what have you, internet operations, influence operations, and psyops, if you wish. And it's also not a secret for anyone with a half brain, it's so obvious. But you can almost trace this, that since the start on the 29th in earnest of this so-called counteroffensive by the Ukrainian side, which by now has a disastrous, catastrophic results, really, people already begin to say that it is by far eclipses those issues or situations which happened in 2014 in Debaltseve and Ilovaisk, well, those famous cauldrons. But even very conservative estimates of on the 4th or by the end of the 4th of September, as was reported by Comrade Podubny from VGDRK, which is the first channel of Russia and which is more or less credible journalist and reporter. We already looked at that time at more than 3,000 killed, which were absolutely confirmed, and more than 7,000 irrevocable sanitary losses on the Ukrainian side. In other words, Ukraine lost within about 5 days time span the whole division, just gone. Not brigade, we're talking about 2 brigades. And it's a catastrophe, and we know that obviously it's all done because on the 8th we have this Rammstein format meeting, which is driven by Pentagon, and Lord Austin will be talking there to Ukrainian side, and Ukrainian side desperately needs to show something for it. And the show it does. As I already stated, most of the time whatever Ukrainian side does, it's a PR. It's for PR, the same goes, and I will be talking later in this video about this. Also goes for the American side, which is primarily PR. There's no actual policy, there's no actual real defensive doctrine which is workable, there's no real war which the United States can fight. But it's all about PR and, of course, trying to get more support, which is, of course, waning from the West. And immediately what they did, they threw Ukrainian side, VSU, Armed Forces of Ukraine, they collected whatever was left from their reserves and threw them at basically the village which is called Vysokopolye. And here where I'm going ballistic. People tell me, hey, don't be so, in demand, don't be so arrogant, don't be so, snobby when you talk about those reporters and this tactical minutia with all those, explosions, missiles flying, people dying and all that. But I'm sorry, nothing I can do about it, because I'm not interested in looking at how Ka-52 decimates some platoon somewhere, because I know what it is. It's how it's planned, that's how people train, that's what they do professionally for a living. They know how to kill professionally using the modern military technology. And but obviously the fact that one of the battalions which was holding the line, which is Olgivka and Vysokopolye, of the paratroopers, Russian paratroopers, had to withdraw from Vysokopolye, was presented as a huge victory, primarily by Ukrainian media and obviously by basically low lives known as the Western media. And here's the deal. And let me show you something which drives me absolutely bananas, and then people will maybe understand what I'm talking about. Because when I read all those, reports, all those, Telegram channels, all those guys on the ground who tell me, 5 people died there, and it's horrible. Make no mistake, I do not enjoy this. Or like, we got, 2 missiles which landed, and, they show those snippets of videos and all that. Sure, that's what war is. It's a horrible suffering. It's absolutely cruel business. And quoting our good old Mr. Clausewitz, it is all about compelling the enemy to do our will. And believe me, Russians know how to do that better than anybody in the world, actually. And this is not being arrogant or, a Russian nationalist, which I am not, by the way. But it is what it is. It's just history. And here it is. Very many Telegram channels, very many all those Western sources, they use this. For example, look at this. This is the map of the fight within, so to speak, the area, which, as you can see yourself, by Mr. whoever he is, Rybar, another, a bunch of the fanboys, and maybe some, I don't know who they are, gamers or whatever, or maybe some org which, acts upon some information which been fed to them. But here it is. As you can see yourself, they show you this kind of bulge. The bulge, it's Battle of the Bulge, which is Vysokopolye, and, and this is where the VSU was able, or Armed Forces of Ukraine, have been able to enter Vysokopolye and even hoisted their flag over there. Actually, probably the only one, not high-rises, I believe 5-story building in this otherwise village. But if you look attentively at the whole map of this, you see this? This is the whole map. It is the map for today. You see yourself, it shows you all those, wonderful battles and things of this nature. And the reason you look at this and you have the issue of looking at it and saying, yeah, these are professionals who do their analysis, so to speak, although, again, I'm on record and I will be continuing to press my point of view that most of what is on YouTube in this respect is nothing but a white noise and done by people who are not professional. But look at this. If we look now closer to this bulge, so to speak, isn't it? That's what we see. Here's the bulge. It's again taken from Rybar, and you see here's the, it shows the front lines. It shows some, villages which are projected against the background of the basically Google Maps satellite imagery. And as you can see yourself, there are watermarks, Rybar, it's kind of, almost my personal thing, the copyright and all that. But if you look attentively at those maps, you will see that they miss for the last 6 months. The only thing which really matters for any military professional, and this thing continues to replicate itself across the board among all those maps of all those, specialists, military experts, quote unquote, who provide us the unstoppable, basically, stream of their opinions and judgments and how the tactics and all that works. And people who, of course, never saw any really classified document on the operation and don't know how operations are conducted or planned. But let me show you why I'm going ballistic. Let me show you exactly the same area which rebar shows. Look at this. You see this? This is Google Maps. Look at the red arrow there. You see this? It is called, guys, Map Legend, and it is called Scale. No professional will touch anything in terms of military operations without having scale and the type of the projection of the map. There are all kinds of projections of the map. There are obviously Mercator, there are conic, and what have you. So you see this? And suddenly you can say yourself, oh, I can take, even using the basically monitor of my computer, I can take the ruler and measure this 2 kilometers, as you can see yourself, and apply to, let's, for example, Vysokopolia. This is the thing where Ukrainian propaganda and its MI6 and CIA handlers tell us they achieved a huge success. But you see, that's what is missing. Of course, you all know this. This is what it is, and on the maps, and it's the most important part of the map. It is called scale. No geographic, let alone military map, exists without the scale. But evidently, our military specialists, and I've been keeping it to myself for a while, although I mentioned it very often in my blog, that what kind of professional really begins to talk about any kind of operations without providing any kind of the scales? I don't know, but people buy it, they just, read it, and, they just follow those maps. But here, let me show you what actually we are talking about using just basic scale methods about the situation on the what is called Vysokopolia, which allegedly the armed forces of Ukraine captured, and this is a triumph. Let me show you. Here is the Google Maps dimensions of the what is called Vysokopolia. In Ukrainian, it sounds like Vysokopilia. And as you can see yourself, it's mostly village. It's a fairly large village, but really nothing too special. It has a couple of the, regular buildings. Other than that, it's primarily what is called houses, separate houses. And as you can see yourself, in the width, we're talking about the village, which is about 2, slightly more kilometers wide, and about 4 kilometers in length. About 4.5, so as you can see yourself. As you can see yourself also, in 2 kilometers from this village, we have the Olgina, as they call it. It's Olgina, which, by the way, Russians still keep. And what happened, Russians just moved away, withdrew tactically in full order, and allowed the Ukrainian force to enter this Vysokopolia. They did absolutely correct thing, because you want to preserve your flanks. You don't want to be struck by any kind of flank attack. But what happens happens next. And here we go and begin to read very wonderful piece, which I already suggested before in my writing and in my videos. Obviously, we take a little bit of the information from the Russian way of war, Ballistic Grau. While it might still not be exact or precise numbers, but look at this. Look what Grau tells us about what is the danger close line when we talk about this funny little thing called Russian artillery. So the danger close line is designated to protect friendly forces from the detonation of one's own artillery rounds. As you can see yourself, for dismounted motorized riflemen, or for that matter, any kind of infantryman, or as we know, there are paratroopers actually there, and some people from Russian Marines. For soldier, it's about 400 meters. So you have to be in 400 meters behind the firewall, which Russian artillery unleashes on the basically in this particular case Vysokopolye, from which Russian forces withdrew and allowed VSU, or Armed Forces of Ukraine, enter it. Here's how the actual size of the area which is being contested and fought over right now looks like. And if you know that the width of Vysokopolye is around 2 kilometers, you can see yourself that the contested area where about 1 battalion, we would say, of Russian paratroopers fight whatever is out there in terms of VSU, which are again, and you already probably guessed it, have been basically lured into the static position in Vysokopolye. And after that, if you look at this attentively, there is more than enough, more than 400 meters, which allow Russian artillery and Russian aviation to work on Vysokopolye, which will be the basically mass grave of the armed forces of Ukraine. There's no need to spend Russian lives trying to contest this village, which is destroyed anyway. So, and we can see here a classic tactical maneuver, and obviously, as you already saw prior to this whole situation with the Vysokopolye, which you know, Ukraine and their propaganda reported immediately gladly that they took it. No, they didn't take it. They were allowed to take it, and then once you see the tempo of the annihilation of the both mechanized forces, which are the forces which can move faster than the obviously human being can run, and these are primarily armored personnel carriers. There are some German whatever armored personnel carriers, there are some other old Soviet personnel carriers, and some tanks which are being burned there, I mean 24/7 now. So, and you might expect probably within the couple days to see, maybe even today, I don't know. But don't quote me on that, because I am not on the ground, and that's the whole thing. We might get the reports now that Vysokopolye is taken back again, and again, Russians will do the spring movement as long as it takes until anything what was accumulated in the Nikolaev area will be obliterated. And it's a normal tactical procedure, and actually, when you look it's on the larger issue, and especially at the catastrophic failure of this offensive, then you will see yourself a good level operational plan and how it is being executed. Do Russians sustain losses? Oh, absolutely, absolutely. It's war, people. But we already, including the number of the officials of the from Kiev and Kiev regime, we already know that the number of the KIAs of the Ukrainian armed forces is measured in hundreds of thousands. My guess will be, at this stage, probably looking at 300,000 maybe. Who knows? Some people say it's even more than that, but don't quote me on that, because unlike all those military specialists who basically, and experts who cannot even produce a proper scale on the map for people to see and understand the expanse and the scope of operations, it is difficult for them to provide the scale, and they still think that they know what they are doing, and obviously they know it better than Russian general staff. Unlike them, I, being former military professional, I just say, I don't know. I'm not on the ground there. I can only judge by the maps, and not maps provided by Mr. Rybaro, whoever he is, whoever those other military analysts are, because I need to go with the basic tactical procedures. Obviously, we understand we have to always give an allowance for the specific circumstances on the battlefield, but it is pretty clear what happened. They were again taken into their static position in the village, which nobody lives in anymore, practically. I don't think so anybody lives there. So yeah, it will be wiped out together with them, and that will be pretty much the, the end of the situation, because in the other two out of three, people say even four, axes of the attacks, it was a catastrophe. It was extermination of the armed forces of Ukraine. And when you look at even the Sakopoli and Olgina affair, you can say yourself that we're looking at actually at the area of about maybe 4 or 5 kilometers wide and about 1 to 1.5 kilometers deep. It's a battalion type level thing, maybe a couple of battalions. And as you understand, armed forces of Ukraine have no air support whatsoever, while Russian aviation just absolutely feels free there and just demolishes whatever moves. So that's the situation, and that's why I went really ballistic. I hated to see this all the time, people showing those maps. I want to remind you again, if you look attentively at the scale and on the map, we're looking at the front with the length of around 1,200 kilometers. Look at the scale of the front in the World War II and the Western, at the Western Front in 1944, 1945, and compare this. So people sometimes do not have a grasp of the scale and the scope of operations. But as you might expect, there is a lot of butt hurt out there. And that's what I wanted to talk, obviously, before. But before going to talk about it, I have to admit that this news were actually almost expected. It was inevitable, and this is the start, and it's primarily Anglo and American special services which are handling ISIS, and we know that U.S. Army was transporting many of the ISIS leaders with their families from Al-Tanf base, and they were thrown into Afghanistan before, of course, United States gloriously won the war there and left with, flying colors. But yes, Russian embassy have been, at least attempt have been bombed, and attempt was made to be bombed, and obviously it's ISIS. Taliban would never do this, because Taliban actually understand that the only way for surviving of their, not regime, but whatever they do right now, is to have the aid from Russia, and they want to talk to Russians. And obviously they defend whatever they can provide defense of the outer perimeter of the Russian embassy. But if you are dealing with their suicide bomber, this is what you get, guys. But let's get to this thing which I wanted to show you separately today. As I already stated, the sore loserism and butt hurt is immense, especially in the neocon circles in the United States, because primarily those people are not very smart. And as I already stated, yeah, it's you look at the people like Douglas Fate, whom General Tommy Franks called the fucking stupidest guy on the earth. And he is Douglas Fate, by the way. He is the friend of this other dude. And the name of this dude, he's 73 years old, and he was Under Secretary of the US Navy, is Mr. Seth Cropsey. If you look at the basically bio of the guy who wrote this drivel in the Asia Times, it's called How Russia May Escalate Conflict Beyond Ukraine. Russian threats to Indo-Pacific must be recognized and resisted by the US and allies. But let's take a look who this dude Cropsey is, looking at his bio. If we open his bio, and oh my god, even Wikipedia, which you cannot really accuse of being very pro-Russian, to put it mildly, look what they say. It's an American neoconservative political figure and lobbyist. And his father was basically a fan of Strauss, which is called the Straussian political philosopher. And I immediately can say this: those people who think that Strauss produced political philosophy, they have to be disqualified from taking any serious government position, because United States didn't produce any serious political philosophy in ages, least of all through the demagogues and Israeli firsts, and basically chameleons in terms of conservatism, which are Straussians. And when you look further into the biography of this Kropsi guy, as you can see yourself, he also was deputy undersecretary. He was speechwriter for Caspar Weinberger. He was director of policy at the Voice of America. He was deputy undersecretary of the Navy during both Ronald Reagan and George H.W. Bush presidential administrations, and on and on and on. And you can see yourself, all boxes checked. Heritage Foundation, American Enterprise Institute, and everything. So the guy is dumb by definition. That means he is uneducated, and he is, because they are neocons. And neocons and intellectual and competent person, they do not go together. And as you might expect, he publishes this situation about, article about Russians getting ready to escalate, conflict beyond Ukraine. Yet, while stating this, he suddenly begins to provide this classic neoconish bullshit, which is basically, by people who are really don't have any kind of the serious competences when, especially about Russia. And look what he writes. He writes, of course, that obviously VSU should attack, interdiction campaign in Russia, Belgorod or Kursk, and yeah, we understand that. Those guys, they live by only one principle. They hate Russian gods, and the more Russian children, women, men die, the better is for them. This is their moral compass, and that's when you, basically what Strauss is. But when you see this, and that's what he writes, Russian military power is compromised, but Russia has employed its economic capabilities to effect intensifying the West's inflationary crisis to undermine Western morale. After that, he provides another pearl of, I don't know, genius of the politics. Time will tell if Russia can survive economically longer than the West. Evidence indicates that while Western media emphasize Europe's economic plight, the Russian economy is near collapse, with only the organizational talents of financial economic technocrats as a shallow moat against disaster. And that's what you all need to know of the American administrations and their specialists in Russia, which first have been brought up in the United States by, yes, Reagan administration. Well, technically it was, of course, Mr. Carter and his national security advisor Zbigniew Brzezinski, who produced a copious amount of the delirium. But then again, what do you expect from the political scientist who becomes basically a whiteboard theorist of nothing, who becomes national security advisor? And while you have the 9/11, which is, of course, was helped by the policies which have been conceived by Mr. Brzezinski. But then, of course, you have these people like this Kropsi guy, and that's who they are. They have no clue about the subject they write about. And fact is, I looked up the book about the decline of the U.S. Navy and all that by this guy. It was written in 2013. Same old, I mean, regurgitation, if you wish, of the good old Mahanian doctrine of the 19th and early 20th century. And, at this stage you have to start asking if those people have any technical expertise in anything. We know that, especially judging by the way they profess absolute incompetence in military affairs and economy, they don't. And that's the fundamental systemic problem of the country which we call, our home. It's the United States, which is going down the drain pretty fast. And it's not the media which really create the situation. It's the fact that people like this Kropsi and the type of the management, country management and its elites who actually doing this. And their stupidity is so incredible that many people begin to ask a question that it is being done on purpose. Believe me, never underestimate. And I'm quoting, I don't think so, it's Mencken or whoever it was, doesn't matter. One of the brilliant American minds, never underestimate the stupidity. In this particular case, people in Washington, D.C., who probably contribute more without even thinking about it, then something was done deliberately. That's how incompetent and stupid they are. And that is why, you know, he says that morale of the West is undermined, he better look up the news. And we can see today just only the start, the warm-up for basically a rebellion of the European population, which is probably going to be suppressed. But in the same time, who knows? But yeah, we can see already huge demonstration in Czech Republic. We already see Germans finally reacting to all that. And this is just the start. And what can I say? This is what I wanted to tell you today in the end of the Labor Day weekend. And as always, guys, if you like what you see and hear, please subscribe to my channel and support me on Patreon. I will be greatly, I will be very grateful for your support. And tomorrow, I think we're doing, me, Pepe Escobar, and Gonzalo Lira, we're doing the live podcast, so check this out online. So this is what I wanted to tell you, and have a nice rest of the week, guys. I'll talk to you later. Bye bye.